Welcome to another episode of Legendary Kicks and Whips. Today we shine the spotlight on yet another legendary Fox-body Mustang, the 1988 Saleen, and we'll also feature one of the most popular Jordan silhouettes of all time, the Air Jordan 4 Fire Red.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm Zeddy and I'm here with Sergio and our very special guest, Beck. Today we're bringing you another piece of American muscle, and this modified pony boasts 225 horsepower straight from Saleen's performance stable. The example we're showcasing is one of approximately 700 examples modified by Saleen Autosport for the model year. This horse reaches 0 to 60 in a face-melting 6.2 seconds with a top speed of about 140 miles per hour. So let's get to it.
Beck, thanks for joining us. I know you're coming all the way from Buda, Texas, which is near Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem, man. Thank you. We're excited to have you and have showcase your car. I think this is, probably one of the nicest or coolest color combos in the Saleen Mustang, at least the Fox body. The gold wheels with the gold stripes and the tan interior. I mean, I think that's a hard find. Tell us a little bit about, this car and what kind of mods were done by Saleen.
In the late 80s, Saleen was still trying to figure out how to circumvent the EPA. And in 1988, he hadn't figured that out yet. So there were no specific performance modification to the engine or driveline. So what he was doing at the time was modifying the suspension so that they could handle better, because he was a circuit racer, if I remember correctly. So he took what he got from Ford and made some suspension modifications so that it could handle better. And then he also made some aesthetic modifications to not only make it look better, but hopefully also make it more aerodynamic. And some are pretty obvious, the gold stripes, the big wing, the ground effects. You don't see, at least these specific ground effects on Mustangs of the era. The GTs had their own. But it was primarily the aesthetics and the suspension. There were some interior modifications also. At this time, he used flow-fit seats because they had some better bolstering to assist you when you were doing spirited driving, so you weren't sliding all over the place as you may have been with the typical seats that came in the LXs of the time. There were some stereo modifications. This one has what would have been considered a high-end Pioneer cassette deck in 1988, as well as a graphic equalizer, which again at that time was pretty top of the line.
Now, does it have the faceplate that removes, or that was introduced in the 90s?
Yeah, that's a little later. I mean, you're getting a little advanced for 1988 here, Sergio. So we got to take a few years back here.
Remember, you had to pop those off so nobody would steal them.
Oh yeah,
remember?
Absolutely. And they came with the little case where you had to store them so that you wouldn't.
You go to the
damage
mall,
them.
you got to take them off, and now you get your car broken.
But what made you look for this particular car?
So that's the interesting story with it, is I wasn't necessarily looking for this one. So I've always been a fan of the Fox bodies. When I was a kid, I always wanted one. And my first one I got in like 2015, and it was a 91. I'm sorry, 2017 was when I got it. And it was a GT, because I always wanted a GT as a
You just
kid.
wanted a Fox body?
Yeah, specifically the GTs. Like even when I was a kid, I didn't really have any interest in Saleens. And so, at that point, this was in 2021, I think, when we found this one. And Sergio and I were pretty deep into looking into different cars and Fox bodies, and his collection was growing and I was interested in another one. And I found this one on Facebook Marketplace, just kind of scrolling like you do, looking for deals. Yeah.
Really?
And it was in a Saleen Facebook group, because I had joined a few different, or a Fox body one, because I was in a few of them, and I saw the pictures. And I remember I sent it to you in a text, and I said, you've got to check this car out. I said, I don't know why I like this car, but I do. Because when I was looking for my own, I didn't want a white one. I didn't want a tan interior. I didn't want...
And what was that? You had a
just
particular
like
color
it.
in mind?
Yeah, I just did. I
you
never
hated
liked
gold.
it.
I remember
didn't
you
like
hated
gold.
gold.
Yeah.
Gold wheels.
So I didn't like gold wheels. But something about this one, when I saw it in the ad, I sent it to him, and I can't remember the exact words of the text, but it was something to the tune of like, I don't know why I like this car, because I don't like gold, I don't like tan interior, but for some reason it just all came together well on this.
Gets your juices going.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense. Saleen wasn't behind in looks. I mean, they were race focused because of Steve Saleen, but they took care of their aesthetics as well. I mean, the whale tail on this car was not only pretty, but it also helped with the downforce. So I mean, I understand why you fell in love with this car, man. Like, it's a beautiful car, and honestly, you made a great choice.
Yeah, and it really just was one of those by chance, because like I said, I was not, it wasn't on my radar. It just came up on the screen, and then we kind of ended up where we were with it. And
It was
so
meant for you.
Kind of worked out
Romantic.
nicely. Yeah. So, but yeah, and I agree. Like, just the way it all came together. I mean, even with these wheels, I forgot to mention in the when discussing the modifications, like, so Saleen also changed the wheels. So this car originally came with some basket weave type wheels, which were popular for the time, and they were also gold. But these sterns, Saleen added later to the car, or started adding them to Saleens in the 90s, and so they've become popular within the Saleen community as a modification. And even having the original wheels at home, I still don't want to put them on, because these just really fit the car.
Yeah, because the
almost
basket
perfectly.
weave doesn't allow you to see the brake pads either,
Yeah.
right? It's too just there's a lot going on, and with this one, it looks more sporty and also allows the brakes to breathe a little bit better. And but it looks great, man. I think aesthetically, this car is just perfect. Like the gold pinstripe for the year. I mean, there was nothing else that compared to it. I mean, it looks like a badass Fox body, like it, and to know that it's a Saleen and it's so rare, you have a nice museum piece on your hands, and that's all. Congratulations, bro.
Yeah, no, thank you. And to further expand on the story of its acquisition, so I sent him the text and I said, you got to check this out. And he agreed. He said, yeah. He goes, it looks great. Because I don't even think at that point you had any Saleens much on your radar either.
And I fell in love with the car when I saw it.
Yeah, and so I sent
Also,
him the
you didn't have a
text.
Saleen at the time? Like
No, I don't know if I even had a Mustang at all.
I don't know at that time.
You didn't have the Cobras
You may have
yet?
had a Cobra.
Maybe.
But
maybe
because we had been looking for a bunch of Cobras, but Saleens
Yeah,
were
yeah,
never
you're right.
like on the
they
radar.
weren't, yeah.
Because Sergio went from like not having a Cobra to having all the Cobras in the
to having all of them, yeah. But so I remember sending him the text, and he said, I agree. And then at that point, I wasn't in a position to get it. There was a lot of things going on. So I just kind of put it off. And he would send me like the pictures of it again, like a few weeks later, saying, man, this thing is awesome. Like, and I said, yeah. And I remember joking, like, it's going to be the one that got away or something. And then a few months probably went by, and I come down to visit, and he opens the garage and like surprises me because he bought it.
That's
Or
amazing.
he got it, and so I was just looking at it going, this is awesome. And you know, being the sort of kind guy that he is, he says, you know, well, I bought it. He's like, I really want it, but I know you liked it, so if you want to buy it from me, you can, and it can be yours. And I think he was secretly hoping I would say, yeah, no, I'm good, you can keep it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. For sure.
I think he was just like, it was one of those where he was trying to be nice. And then eventually I said, oh, okay, all right, I'll do it. And so we did. And so I ended up with this just on a stroke of luck, right? Like, not only finding something that I was never looking for, but also being put in the opportunity to own it by someone who's part of the family, giving me that opportunity. So in addition to like the sort of emotional sort of feel that I got when I first saw it, that's now enhanced by like the sentimental attachment that kind of comes with,
Yeah, and knowing
you know,
that, I mean,
how it circulated through the family.
yeah, knowing that, it just gives it a lot more of a backstory and just more meaning.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
So just to clarify, okay, so Beck's the type of guy that, you know, takes a while to make a big decision, you know, a big financial decision. I'm completely the opposite. So I knew that you were going to take a while. I'm like, this car is going to be gone if he doesn't decide. Because I kept sending you those pictures, being like, hey man, it's still available. Like, you sure you don't want it? You're like, I don't know, man. It's, you know, it's a lot of money. And I'm gonna think about it. So I jumped on it. But to be completely honest, I was really hoping that you would buy it. Like, that was my wish, was like, I want to help this guy buy this car that you fell in love with. Because I'd never heard you talk about a car that like this. You never like get excited about it. So usually like, oh wow, you know, it's pretty cool. Like, it's a nice car. But this one you were like, I don't know, man, the gold, like, it just does it for me. I typically don't like gold, but you were just like in love with this car. So my secret hope was that you actually would want to buy the car. But if you didn't, then awesome for me. You know, I got a cool car. So I was, you know, in the future, I was like, well, if he ever sells it, then, you know, hopefully I get first dibs on it. I know you got a big offer, right after you bought it, you got somebody offered you a lot of money for it, like almost double, I think, what you paid for it, and you declined it. You're like, no, I can't get rid of it. I love this
Insane.
car so much. But I ended up hunting one down that's very similar to it. It doesn't have the sterns on there, but I got 2 extra set of stern wheels that I can probably put on there. I think we have a gold and
Is
is it
it
silver? Yeah,
silver or gray? I can't.
yeah, I think they're gray.
What were
But yeah, I
the
was able to hunt it down and get pretty much a very similar car to yours. So I kind of took care of that itch.
so what were the popular colors of this year? It was the white with gold and then blue, right? Like
There was a dark blue.
Black.
There was black. There
Red.
was red and gold, and there were different colors of stripes offered as well. So there was the gold stripes. I think there were gray stripes. I'm not sure if they were gray or silver, but one of the two. Um, so they matched up those stripes differently depending, I guess, on the color of the car. So you could get a white with gray stripes as well as a white and gold. I know that for this combination, so I have I think it's a Saleen letter of authenticity. I don't know if they call it that, but you can go on their website and request one. And for this model year, this combination of gold stripes, white with gold interior is like one of 7 of those 700 that I think you mentioned they made for the 88 model year, or 700, I'm sure, give or take.
10%
But yeah.
approximately. That's
Yeah.
insane, dude. That's yeah, and it looks great. I saw the comparison, and the way you talk about it just gets the blood pumping and gets you excited about a vehicle, because that's what we all like, right? We like cars, and we all have a reason why we bought it, or excuse why we bought it, because the wives, but sometimes you gotta say, you know what, this is the reason why I want this car, and but this one it's just a lot more heartfelt, and it's kind of cool how it all happened, because not everybody has that opportunity. Not everybody's blessed with having a good friend, a good family member that can do that for you, and it's cool to keep that with that backstory. And it's the bonus is that you get to see this art piece and like in front of you that you can drive, man, and it's because you do drive it, right? You put some miles in it. See, it's that's one of the best things to do. It's the experience. You're not there because you want to race or beat other cars. You're there because you want to get that smell of the 80s, that nostalgic button that you can press every time you just start on the car, man, and that's great. And I'm really happy for you. I'm glad that you brought it over here, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I agree. I mean, I think that the emotional ties that, you know, car guys have to cars. I mean, I think all of us would consider ourselves car guys. And you can easily try to get lost in the numbers, right? Like this car goes 0 to 60 to this and has 900 horsepower or whatever. And on paper, I think a lot of times that is exciting, right? Like we see this car has this and can go 0 to 60 in this. But I think ultimately it's once you see it, once you're in it, once you're driving it and you feel it, like that changes the sensation entirely. And you start to build emotional ties just based on that very visceral experience. And that's what I think about when I think of these cars. It's like part of me was just, when I was a kid, like, you know, I grew up in a small town, you know, in South Texas in Laredo. You didn't see supercars, you didn't see Ferraris and Lamborghinis, but you saw these, and those were the performance cars of the day. So I just remember as a kid seeing them and hearing them and just thinking like, wow, they must be so fast. Like now it's 2024, it still sounds the same, but I can get in it and realize, okay, it's not very fast, but it doesn't really change the experience all that much, right? Like when we go, you know, when you come visit and we go driving through Hill Country, Texas, we're not going very fast, but you've got the windows down, you know, we're listening to cassettes, it music of the time, and you're hearing the car and you're feeling it. It heightens the experience. And that's where a lot of my excitement comes from these things, because I mean, you know, to the point in the intro, you know, I realized like the, you know, the face melting 0 to 60 and 6.2, you know, that's obviously kind of tongue in cheek.
Face warming.
Yeah, maybe that's a better, because 6.2 is not fast, but again, the visceral experience of doing that and trying to put yourself in that time period, or putting yourself back in the shoes of that child you were, thinking that, you know, because when you're 12, like 0 to 60 and 6.2 is probably pretty fast because you have no relative experience, but it's those emotional ties to, you know, for me it's this, for you it's something else, but that we create as car guys with different pieces, I think is where a lot of the fun and excitement resides in.
For people, it's just they need to get it. Like they need to understand that it's the experience. Like once you're in it, you can't put a value to it, because it what makes you feel, what it'll bring you back to Laredo. It'll bring you back to the moment that said he opened the garage and you saw the car. Like, there's a whole experience encapsulated in a vehicle, and that you can drive and you can enjoy. So I think that's very special. And I hope people who are not, or like on the fence of liking cars or getting into a hobby, it's always about that. I mean, how am I gonna fulfill that gap and get that experience that I want, just to have a different type of conversation with somebody, to have that different type of I guess something in common, that affinity. And for us, it's cars, and it's so special. So I'm glad that you brought it here, and also you shared that story, because not everybody can get to say that and have the car here to talk about it. So that's awesome. Appreciate you, Beck.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. But even expanding on what you mentioned earlier about my apprehension sort of buying it, right? You know, it was all those things that you said, but part of it also was because I was looking at a picture on a screen, right? And my personality is one as such that I kind of need to feel it there, or in person. I don't know that I'm coming up with the right words. And so it was easier for me to be apprehensive about it, because it's like, well, it's a picture. I'm not actually seeing it. But when I saw it after you had it here and you showed it to me, like at that point, all those emotions just flooded times 100. And so I'm certainly grateful that you were able to sort of put that opportunity in front of me, because part of the reason I was able to let it go is it's like, well, it's in wherever it was. I mean, it was in another state or something. I mean, it was on the internet at that point. But I do feel very fortunate and grateful that I do have people in my life that, you know, not only recognize that I can be a bit slow to decide and apprehensive, but are willing to kind of take a chance and put those opportunities in
But
front
even then, you took about a week to think over it and
I did, that's
decide.
true.
I was like, come
That's
on,
true.
Beck, it's right here, man. But you know, I've always collected like 80s stuff. You know, I've always been kind of nostalgic in that sense. It's a little bit embarrassing, some of the 80s stuff that I collect. Nothing bad. But
Underwear, mostly used.
yeah. No, it's like action figures. You know, I'll admit, you know, some like G.I. Joes, Transformers, Star Wars, stuff like that. And in sneakers, I was always into sneakers too. You know, probably been collecting sneakers for like 20 years or so. But cars, you know, were never in my realm of reality of collecting until you. So I partly blame you for that. So when you had your first Mustang, I was like, man, a 5.0, like we all wanted that growing up, you know, and we were in junior high, high school, whatever the case. Those were the cars to have. So you kind of sparked that interest in that. And my wife, you know, your sister, you know, Beck's my brother-in-law. She says, man, I regret ever complaining about your shoe addiction. So she kind of wishes I was, you know, sticking to shoes instead of other cars now. But yeah, you're to blame for that. But thank you, and you suck at the same time.
Well, I get it. I mean, and the only reason I caved after a few weeks was because of the peer pressure. I mean,
Yeah.
like it's like, well, I guess I have to do this now.
Can't check it out.
Yeah.
It's already here.
Yeah.
All right, Beck. So, what was the sticker price of a car like this back then? I mean, I know the GTs were like around what, like 13,000, or am I off?
Well, it was more than you could afford, buddy.
Yeah.
Celine.
Yeah, it was
That's a
silly.
Fast and the Furious reference for those of you that think I'm just being arrogant here.
We'll put it in the corner. Top corner.
Yeah, I have the original sticker from when it was a LX. So I would assume Saleen would have bought it from Ford for that amount, and I think it is about 13 for a bare bones LX. And then the Saleen modifications, I don't really know how those were tallied up. I mean, I would guess because it was aesthetics and suspension, maybe another 5 to 7 grand, maybe putting it around 20, but I don't know. I mean, maybe somebody watching this video might be able to kind of help us out with that.
According to Motor Week, it was at 22K.
Okay.
So if you had 22K to spare,
On top of the cost of the
no, the total.
total. Okay. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
so it was like $7,800.
Okay.
Okay, so those are pretty
That's
good
pretty
guys.
close. Yeah.
And they compared it to the ASC McLaren. So, but 22K on a Mustang, for a Mustang, it's like you had to have that car as an additional car. Like if you were a family or a dad, I mean, that wasn't your first option. You know, you would get a Taurus or whatever sedan was available at the time. But yeah, 22K.
Today's value, I mean, looking at comps on this, I think we found some with a lot more miles in the low to mid 40s. So this one having, I think it's 21,000 miles. I think we easily put it in the high 60s, maybe low 70s, maybe because of the color combination. I think it's one of the most desirable. So yeah, I think it's a very valuable car.
And there is a resurgence with Saleen vehicles. Looking into it a little bit more, just the Saleen family or the club, it's just so fanatical, man. Like and you can, like what you did was you can go into Saleen and get it authenticated, and like people love their Saleens. Like if you're a Shelby guy, you're a Shelby guy. If you're a Saleen guy, you're a Saleen guy, and it's a whole different universe, kind of like a multiverse of Mustangs.
I agree, and the Saleen community is so far, I mean, has been really great. Whether it's interacting on like the on a Facebook forum or anything like that. I mean, everybody just seems to be really helpful, like because they just have the same passion, like that you do for the car, and they want to know as much as you do. So if they don't know, it's a great community to help you learn about them. You know, we talked about the connection with the shoes, and so yeah, being able to connect with
and the few
community.
cars and coffee and car shows that we've been to. I mean, it's a big hit. People always come and look at it and want to ask you about it.
Yeah, I mean, it sticks out like a sore thumb. I mean,
Yeah.
it screams, "Look at me." I mean, one of my buddies described it best when I showed him a picture. He said, "That looks like a low-level 1980s Miami Coke dealer's car," and I couldn't
You hit it right in the money.
I couldn't agree with him anymore. Like I thought that was the most accurate description of it.
But you're not low level, dude. Like we should clear that out. You're high level Coke dealer.
I'm not a Coke dealer.
Anymore. I'm kidding. But when you talked about the community, how people love the car, just on the way over here, like, to the stable, there is a beat up, abandoned Saleen. I think it's like a '94.
The black convertible?
Yes.
Yes,
It's just
saw that.
dying there, man. And it's just Saleen. I mean, it's just. I wonder, maybe they didn't know what it was, but it's been there for the longest time.
Yeah,
It's
I
just-
noticed that as long as I've been coming here. Yeah.
It's insane.
Well, thanks for joining us, man. What do you say we take it out for a spin?
Yeah, let's do it. I think it'll be
do
a
it.
good time.
Go. All right, Beck, show us what this thing's made out of.
Plastic.
Hold on to your hats, boys. Well, I guess I'm the only one wearing a hat.
I don't want my
Whatever.
face
Yeah.
to melt.
Here, face it again.
Beautiful face, I don't blame you.
6.2
6.2, guys.
seconds.
We're going to Plaid.
Corner flat. How was that Hearst shifter, man?
It's doing its job, man. It feels great. Throws are kind of short, at least compared to what came standard on these back in
Yeah.
the day.
Was
so-
your GT a manual as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you feel a difference in the shifter, or we also had a Hearst on it?
No, so that one is, the other one that I've got is somewhat modified as well. So it's got a short throw as well.
Oh, okay.
It does shift a little bit different, right? The black
Yeah.
one? Yeah, I noticed that when I drove.
It's a little tighter. It's a more modern, I shouldn't say, I guess modern in when it was released. So it's got its differences, but
One thing I always liked about the Saleens was the steering wheel that he put, the Momo.
yeah, I
Thing's
think
so
it
cool.
really ties it together nicely. I mean, we touched on some of the interior modifications with the radio and the seats, but yeah, there was the Hearst shifter, the Momo steering wheel. There is the 170 mile an hour speedometer. In '88, these still had the 85 mile an hour speedos, so this was quite an upgrade back then.
Oh, what I found.
Cassettes. There you go.
Nice. This is all you needed back in the 80s was your cassette collection. Let's see what you got here, bro. Got some Bon Jovi, some Guns N' Roses, some Motley Crue.
And you mentioned earlier that the Pioneer was standard on the Saleen.
Yes, they put. I know throughout the years it changed with the brands. I'm not as familiar, but yes, Saleen took out the stock Ford radios, and then this year they were using these Pioneers cassette decks with these equalizers.
It's very clean.
We pop this into that Pioneer.
Let's check it out.
Let's see. That's what we got.
Go back to 1988, maybe?
Oh, snap.
Oh, yeah.
But I think, you know, it's these drives that I always enjoy because when you get, and you hear this a lot from people who review cars, but you get into newer cars and they're built so tight, they're so quiet, you don't feel anything. Like in this car, like you feel the rumble of the exhaust through the seats, you feel the bumps on the road.
That's part of the experience,
yeah.
right? For sure.
Feel more engaged to the vehicle.
You want a smoother ride, just buy a newer vehicle, something more modern.
Had a very particular exhaust note, right? That
Yeah,
chambered.
Well, there's another popular modification for the Fox bodies back in the day was the Flowmaster exhaust, which this has. I know that wasn't specific to Saleen, but this car does have the Flowmasters, which was, you know, back in the day, if you had a 5.0 Fox body, you had to do that. Like, I mean, it was just the first mod everybody did because it gave it that exhaust note that we all know and remember, you know, from when we were
that was like a
kids.
standard mod that you had to do
Yeah.
to every Fox. So, Saleen never modified the exhaust?
He started to, I believe, with the SSCs in '89. In
Okay.
'89, the '89 SSC, to my knowledge, was the first one where Steve was able to, or Saleen was able to figure out how to get past the EPA regulations in order to start modifying the cars.
He modified the engine on that one. That was the first one, the SSC was.
And the only reason you think he stuck with the EPA regulations was because he was selling it as a dealership vehicle?
I think it had more to do with being able to maintain the Ford warranty. I could be wrong on that, but I think some of it was that, but then a bigger part of it may have been just that the EPA had these specific regulations as far as emissions, and anytime you start dealing with, you know, changing the driveline, the engine, it affects all of that. Even something as simple as the changing the exhaust can change those things, and so it had to be able to pass those standards.
My understanding is that certain dealerships would send the car to Saleen, and then they have him modified, send it back to the dealership, and then they would sell it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
my understanding. I'm not sure if that's the way it always worked. I always wondered if somebody could buy a Mustang and send it directly to Saleen back in the day. If anybody knows, you know, please.
I don't know. I mean, I would think that
Chime
maybe
in.
perhaps just because when you're a small, sort of more flexible company and you're trying to sort of emerge as a player in the market, I mean, that flexibility is a lot of times what defines smaller organizations, that helps them grow as they are determining their own sort of internal processes.
Because this one was bought at a Ford dealership, right?
Yeah, so this one was, the originating dealership was John Bleakley Ford in Georgia. I forget the city. But as I learned more about Saleen's, I've learned that that was a popular dealership that they, known for selling Saleen's. And I believe Bleakley also did specific modifications to different types of Mustangs as well, but not necessarily just the Saleen's.
Melt our faces, man. There you go. Nice. That has a nice punch, man. It's pretty stout.
Well, very nice ride. Thank you for allowing us to ride in your 88 Saleen. So we'll head back to the stable and take a look at these Jordans.
Yeah, no, appreciate you guys having me out today. It's been a blast.
So the Jordan 4 is my ultimate favorite Jordan silhouette, but this colorway specifically is like really my favorite shoe. Like, this is my favorite shoe of all time. I actually owned this shoe back in 6th grade. This is my very first Jordan. And it was actually, I remember my mom bought them for me. They were on sale, so I was so excited. That's the only reason she bought them for me. I really couldn't afford much back
Only
then.
about one, not the pair.
I was hopping everywhere. So I really love this shoe. I think I only had one other Jordan. I think it was a 9. In high school, I only had two pairs of Jordan ever. And as a kid, so this shoe is very special to me. This is a 2020 edition. It's the first time they actually retro the shoe, meaning they brought it back with the original Nike Air logo in the back. But this is a really popular shoe. Like I said, it's the most popular silhouette. It's the best-selling Jordan. Besides the 1, I believe, is the next highest selling Jordan. It's got that iconic mesh on the side, the black bag tab, or the heel tab, I should say, the Jumpman and the flight inscription on the tongue, and also the other iconic part of it is the see-through air pocket, which was introduced in the Jordan 3. So that was partly what we fell in love with as kids. Like, man, you can see the air in there. There's cushion. It's gonna make me jump higher. I could probably dunk a basketball.
And the
was that type of thing.
colorways, it's all Chicago Bulls, man. It's all Jordan.
Absolutely.
I remember, speaking of the air pocket, like always being concerned that I was going to step on a nail or something that was going
Pop
to
it.
puncture it, and then I wouldn't have the air anymore. I
Your
wouldn't be
shoes
able
are
to,
flat.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to run as fast or jump as high anymore.
So
Do
these
they
came
really
out in
have air
19.
inside?
What's that?
Do they really have air inside?
Yeah, that's where their Nike Air. Before that, it was just Nike. It was never air attached to it. These were released in '89. There was 4 colorways. It was this one, which is a fire red. Then there was the bread, which is all black, and then the white cement, and then the military blues, which is the ones I'm wearing. These just came out in 2024, but they changed the name to industrial blue. I don't know why they did that. I like the military blue better. But those were the initial 4 original colorways, which were really cool back in the day.
I remember having some Jordans as a kid too. I mean, similar to you, like we didn't have a whole lot of money, so it was always a big deal when we got them, and you always took care of them because you didn't know when you were going to get another one. And the 4s, I do remember, were the first ones I ever had. I subsequently had the 5s later, but I remember when I had these, as a kid, right, you lace them up tight to go play basketball or whatever. And I remember when these little tabs would start to separate because you would just use them so much. And I remember being so sad when one finally came off. Like, I ruined my Jordans. But it was just because I used them so much because, they were, at the time, they were the shoes to have.
Yeah.
And, they've now, with everything you've described on them, to become that cultural icon. Jordans in general. But I think these older ones, they're near and dear to a lot of people's hearts. And same with these. I mean, I think you mentioned these were the best-selling ones. So
Yeah. What was the price
currently.
point on these at the time, like the original one?
I believe they were like $110.
That
$110.
was a lot of money. I mean,
It's a lot of money back then, for sure.
so when you say you got them on sale, what was the sale? Was it like
Man,
190?
I think they were probably like $89 or something, or
That's a steal.
59. I can't remember exactly, but I know they were on sale because I remember being so excited. I think we found them like at Bell's or something crazy like that.
Wieners.
I think it's interesting with Jordans in general, like just growing up when we grew up with these and over the years, like how popular they were, right? And like how, how cool you were if you had a pair of Jordans, right? And now we're talking almost, I mean, these came out in, I think, '89, right? I mean, so now we're talking, 35 years ago, they were the it shoe to have. And here in 2024, it's still the same thing. Like they maintain the same cultural iconic status to where there's kids that weren't even alive in 1989 that even know, like, well, if you want to be cool, you got to have a pair of Jordans.
Isn't it special that like we got a chance to experience these shoes and buy them while Jordan was still playing, and see him perform and see him be so emblematic in the basketball world. No, not only basketball, he was a global star, everywhere he went, very well recognized. And then I have his shoe, and while I'm wearing his shoe, I'm watching him play. Beat the Utah Jazz or whatever on all his championship runs. But I think that's also very special for us to experience that we were able to get the shoe and also see the guy that was behind the shoe perform and wear the shoe on live television. I think that's a really cool experience because it's not that far away, but a lot of the new guys are never going to get to see Jordan play anymore unless they go to the highlight reels. But it was cool to see that. Like, well, I got that shoe. What shoe is he gonna wear for the next game? Or what was the other one you told me about, like the flu shoe, or that was
flu game.
Yeah, the flu game. It's like all those things are something that we're gonna hold near and dear to our hearts because we experienced it and we lived it. And now see that on the new generation, it's just it's like nostalgia all over again. Because you see a
Yeah.
kid, 4-year-old kid, with those shoes, and I'm like, oh man, that's pretty cool. Because they do hit all those special buttons.
Jordan really created the sneaker culture. I mean, he's got to be credited for that. You know, not only being the GOAT, you know, the greatest of all time, but also creating the sneaker culture. But growing up, I mean, we actually wore these shoes. Like we played ball in them. Nowadays, you know, you won't catch a kid playing ball. They're wearing crease protectors. They're walking like ducks because they don't want to crease their shoes. Because right now it's like it's a sin to crease your shoes. Like you get made fun of at school. But it's so cool that the new generation is getting to experience this. We get to experience it again, you know, where they're retroing all these shoes. So the nostalgia is there for us. Like my 12-year-old Noah, like his favorite silhouette is also the 4. Most of his shoes are Jordan 4s, but he won't wear them to play ball. He'll wear them, you know, to go to school or to go hang out with his friends. A cool story, you know, this shoe also kind of kicked off my sneaker addiction. I'm not blaming everybody for my addictions today, right? I guess that's what addicts do, right? We got to blame somebody else.
Yeah, it's
for
not
it.
our fault. It's
It's
not our fault.
So I was living in New York about 20 years ago in New York City. I was going to school there. I was walking with my wife on the street, and I looked down at the guy walking in front of me, and I see him wearing some Jordan 4s, and they were the white cement. But I see that it says Nike here on the back. I was like, man, that brought back all sorts of emotions, because I'd never seen that until I had only seen that as a kid.
There's a
I'd
guy
never
you
seen it
robbed,
again.
right?
What's that?
There's a guy you robbed.
Yeah.
Give me your New York City, man. So I was just, you know, flooded with emotions and memories. And I had to stop the guy. I'm like, bro, I love your shoes. Like, where did you get those? Like, I thought those shoes were long gone. Like, you know, I never imagined that Nike would be smart enough to reintroduce those to a whole new generation. And I think maybe they were thinking that it was probably more targeted to us, like the older generation, not the older, but the ones that grew up with it. But little did they know that the newer generation were going to pick up on it. But going back to the story, the guy's like, yeah, I bought him here. I bought him downtown at a store called Flight Club. So that's the first time I ever heard of Flight Club. So sure enough, the next day, you know, I took the train down there. I walked in the store. I was just like blown away at all these cool shoes, but like in good condition. I'm like, what in the world? Like, how did somebody maintain these in such good condition? But that's where my sneaker addiction started, you know, about 20 years ago, in that moment when I saw the shoes, the guy walking, you know, down the street with him. So it's been expensive since then.
Yeah. Well, I think you both touched on great points about the experience, right, that these shoes created, right? And that's a great parallel to what we were talking about with the cars as well, right? It's the experience of how they made you feel. And I thought you made a great point of growing up with them, right? And being able to watch Michael Jordan play. There was something about being a, you know, 8 to, or depending on whatever your age was at that time, but, you know, an 8 to 15-year-old kid at that time watching your hero play and seeing that he's playing in these shoes and being able to look down at your own feet and say, hey, look, I have these, you know. There is such an emotional tie for that just made us all feel like we were somehow connected to Jordan. And it was such a great feeling as a kid. But then how you also mentioned, you know, seeing them again, you know, the parallel there was for the car was when we were kids. It's being able to relive some of those emotions that we had as a child through these different experiences, which I think is such a great thing about being or having an interest in any of these things, right? It's that's what we're searching for, is I feel like, is that experience of how it makes us feel, whether it's nostalgic or if you're living in the moment, the connection to, in this case, one of our heroes.
But there's also a good point that we can dive into is you create a conversation with a total stranger just because of a shoe.
The
I
connection,
mean,
yeah.
if you wasn't wearing the Jordans and the guy's walking, you're not gonna be like, man, those jeans look really good on you, bro.
You must work out.
You must work out. No, like you go in and you're like, you know what? Like I like there's it's a conversation starter. Same with cars and because we're all chasing that. Oh, you have those. I've been looking for those, or where did you get those, or where'd you get that car? How'd you get it? It's it's a cool way to show that we're human, man. And at the end, we all love something. We all have an affinity for something, and if we can connect it, that's what we're trying to do anyway. As creators, as a businessmen, as fathers, as husbands, as sons, we're just trying to show love and show appreciation of things that are well done. And it's pretty cool, man, that you have that here. And one question that I always like to ask is, where can they find this shoe, bro?
You can find all the kicks that you desire at Legendary Sneakers in San Antonio, North Star Mall for sure.
Legendary Sneakers.
Now, remember, like back in the day, like if you're gonna wear these shoes, you're going to the mall. You better be going with all your friends because you're gonna get jumped. Remember that was always a fear, like they're gonna jump me and steal
take
my
my
shoes.
Jordans,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
didn't
you
get it.
have to
'cause
hang out with the
I
crew
was
if
like,
you're gonna go.
why did they take his shoes? But I mean, nobody was gonna take my what was it at the time, my whatever Payless shoe had at the time, the Attack Force. Nobody's gonna take my Attack Force.
Capeless.
Yeah.
I was begging somebody to take my Attack Force, so my mom would get me some better ones, you know?
Maybe some Nikes.
Yeah, but I mean, you're right. I mean, back then there was people who really knew about shoes and they knew
Yeah.
they were expensive and they could resell them. But then there was the kids that would play ball with them, or oh, you got new shoes? Let me step on them, and for no good reason, just let me step on them. And
Yeah.
but now there's a value that you can get stabbed if you step on my shoe, kind of situation.
Oh yeah.
But
Times have changed
yeah,
for
it's,
sure.
I mean, when I saw it for myself at the sneaker con in San Antonio. It was just insane, man. Like it's a culture. It's a whole culture of fanatics and a lot of knowledgeable people who really, they're historians in the modern world talking about shoes. That it's a or sneakers in this case. It's not something that old, but there's a lot of history to it, and I think it's really really cool because it also invites people to study, to learn, to do research on a particular item that they want and how to attain it. Or maybe I got to work a little more to get this shoe. Maybe I got to do this to get this shoe. Like it just creates a whole new world of opportunities for somebody to make friends, to make a business, to learn, to buy, or have a conversation at the end of the day.
But I wonder now, I mean, because their iconic status has only grown since 1989, and it's not like the value has really diminished in any degree. So does the current generation have those same concerns about, somebody's going to take my shoes if, and I don't know. I mean, that's just a kind of a genuine question that I
think
asked.
it was more like the inner city, like
Okay.
those type of areas where you got to worry about that.
South Texas.
And this specific shoe it's about a $400 or $500 shoe, not super super expensive. Obviously, retail was, I believe, it was a 180 when it came out in 2020. But if you can find a 1989 shoe in decent condition, you're looking at thousands of dollars, especially if they're in great condition, have the box. But I will say that most of those shoes, the sole just crumbles. I have a white cement, which was retroed in 1999, 10 years after it came out. It was retroed, and the soles all crumbled. I had it in my closet for a few years, and then when we moved, I remember moving the shoe, and I'm moving the boxes of shoes, and when I opened it, I almost started crying because the sole was like crumbling, and I thought it was something that I did wrong. Maybe I stored it improperly, but after doing some research, it's like, no, that's inevitable. It's gonna happen to all the Jordan 4s. So
It's just the materials that they used at the time,
the
and
3s I think also do that. The Jordan 1s those things will last forever. The materials are just more sturdy.
So when do they start like retroing shoes? Like, when did that become a thing on Jordan?
On this specific shoe in '99 was the first time they ever retroed a shoe, and that's the one that the guy was wearing that I saw on his feet. Yeah, and then this one was just barely retroed in 2020, and then the military blues, which I'm wearing, those are just retroed in 24. And retroed meaning like it was the exact spec as the original one with the Nike Air. Because they did retro them, but they had the Jumpman on the back on the heel
as
tab.
opposed to the Nike Air like we see
Yeah, they
here.
had the Jumpman on the heel tab, and those I'm not a big fan of those. I don't know. It's just, and they've made so many different colorways now. It's crazy.
So when you say they retroed them in 2020 and then the blues in 2022, I think you said, does that mean like that they're limited production? Like they make a few of them, release them?
No, these are GRs, like general release. They made hundreds of thousands of them. They're not.
But you can still just go out and buy them today, or do you need to find like specialty shops like Legendary to get them?
Yeah, a resale shop, specialty shop that can still find them for you. Because you go to the retail stores, you won't find them.
And that's just because they sell out so quickly?
They sell out pretty quickly, yeah.
But they are to some degree still in production. They just sell pretty quickly.
Yeah, sometimes they'll drop them again, like they'll release them again. They'll do limited releases, but the first original release is pretty big. But even then, they sell out.
And it's an adventure, man. Like I've been in part of 2 drops, and there's like that risk of you not getting the shoe at all. Like these were, I just found them by chance on a I think it was on a website, and there were the retail price. Like I didn't pay a markup on them. The same thing with the green ones. They're the Jordan 4s, but
Yeah.
I don't know what the name are on those, like the glitter green, the ones
Yeah.
that Angelica got. And like it was gonna be a Father's Day gift for me. So there was like a whole process of making a line and being part of a raffle, or it was just insane. And they weren't gonna get it. It was just because the manager was nice enough to be like, you know what, we have that size here, like, and we're in the valley. Not everybody has a foot that size, so they were able to get it. And I was like, oh, that's insane. I mean, it's cool. Like it's an experience even in that part of getting the shoe. And if you get it, it's like, oh, you were able to get it. You were one of the few, even though they mass produce them, it's general release and it's a drop, but people just attack it and buy in bulk, and it's just a really cool experience.
I experienced something similar to that a few years ago because I like the Jordan 5s as well. And I remember a few years ago, it was right around Christmas time, so maybe that was part of the problem too. But you know, I got one of those ads on the internet, and it was the 5, but it was in a color I'd never seen before. So I don't know if maybe that color they just did it for that release, or I mean, I'm not as well versed in them, but I remember I saw them and I said, oh, I've got to buy these. And I think I put them in my cart, but then I got distracted by my kids or something. And I was either later that day or the next day, and I said, oh, I got to go buy those Jordans. And I went back and it was like no longer available. You can't, yeah. So I guess I'm not getting these Jordans.
Yeah, well, same thing happened with these. I was in Miami and I was flying back. While I was on the plane, I got the drop notification on the Nike app or sneaker app, and I put them on the cart, and I was trying to buy it, but the Wi-Fi wasn't working. I was like, well, I'll do it as soon as I get the Wi-Fi on the plane. And as soon as we were able to use the phone and without getting scolded, I got the phone out and I looked at it. It wasn't there. It was like a matter of minutes, you know. Like once we hit the proper height, or whenever you can actually use your phones on the plane, and they were gone. It was like 5 minutes, and I was like, that's insane. That's just, people are on it.
And it's actually easier to get them now because Nike is mass producing these shoes now, not like they did before. So I don't know if you guys are aware, but Nike's stock value has plummeted this year.
Oh, really?
And people think it's because of that, because they're
Mass
making
producing.
so many shoes that people don't want them.
Oh, they're
People want
diluting their
something
own-
limited, something that they want, that adrenaline rush of hunting down the shoe, or getting the raffle. It's just one of those things, right? Supply and demand, I think. But my understanding is that in 25 they're going to go back to like more limited runs. Obviously, shareholders are probably not happy with them right now, but that's something that they've done, is just really mass produce shoes, and I think they've kind of hurt the market. We've seen a decline quite a bit this year, but hopefully next year will be better.
I mean, I think that's a good point. I mean, scarcity kind of drives collectability, right? I mean, we talked about the car being one of seven of 700 or something, right? And as things become collectible, a lot of times it's because of that. It's because they're difficult to find, they're difficult to source. So yeah.
Because if you're a kid and you're at school, like, you want to be one of the few kids that have it. You don't want the shoe that everybody has,
Yeah, it does make you feel weird. I remember I saw this guy one time that was wearing the same shirt, and I felt weird. I was like, why are we wearing the same shirt, dude? Like, who are you? Why are you here? There can only be one of us.
Yeah.
There you go. Oh, it's like Highlander, right? You brought out the sword and there can only be one.
Have y'all seen the same shirt prank that they do on dads on like Instagram? Like ladies, like they're gonna go out to dinner with their, like, in couples, and they all buy the same shirt for the guy, and they have him wear it the same night. So they all show up to the restaurant with the same shirt, and they're just recording them, and everybody's laughing at them. And they take a picture, like the 5 or 6 guys have the same T-shirt. We hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Please like, subscribe, and tap the notification button to stay updated. I'm Sergio. Catch you next time on Legendary Kicks and Whips.